Good afternoon, folks. Today is Thursday, October 8th, another beautiful day this week. This week's reflection, if you can give some pause, was kind of inspired by a couple of editorial headlines that I read. One in the New York Times, one in the Washington Post, and the New York Times headline was "There's too much happening," and the Post was "I've had enough news now, thank you." It seems to be a common feeling among so many people. We obviously don't have to recount all that's happened in the news these past couple of weeks nationally, but locally, our immediate neighborhood has been reeling a bit with regard to or around the death of three teenagers, three boys, 13, 15, and 16, who died at 18th and Emerson, which is, if I open those blinds, we could see from here, fleeing police in a carjacked vehicle. We've got continued violence. Yesterday, another teenager was shot and killed not far from here on Lowry. There's that circle of concern, and then our ensuing concern about just our own children and their safety, our young people. We've got our own stories that each of us are dealing with too much news. Thank you. I had an incident last week of atrial fibrillation. Spent the night in the hospital, and I'm fine, and everything's great. But it shakes up one's life. And then things like hard-boiled eggs that you can't peel. That's something that went wrong. It's these circles of events in our lives. And I was in a conversation, something like this, and someone said, what do you do? What do you in relative to the spiritual life? How do you pray in the midst of all of this? And into all of that dropped yesterday's gospel for me, a familiar one to you. Jesus was praying in a certain place, and when he had finished, one of his disciples said to him, "Lord, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples." He said to them, "Father, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come. Give us each day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, for we ourselves forgive everyone in debt to us. And do not subject us to the final test." The prayer is more expanded. This is Luke's version, more expanded in Matthew. For example, in this version, the line that I really wanted in there yesterday isn't there. Your kingdom come, thy kingdom. No, thy kingdom come is here. Your will be done. In another conversation, someone said to me, when all of this is a swirl, when it's the election, and when it's things bigger than the election, when there are, just how consumed we get with the national news, for example. And I don't watch a lot of news on TV. I mean, because of the rancor is so, it's just stressful. I read a lot to get my news, but we can't help but be consumed by it. And then, as I said, our what's happening in our immediate community, and again yesterday with the protests and the kind of fear that something violent might happen. I think at least those of us who live in Minneapolis can feel. And someone said to me, it's what I do, what he said he does is just remembers to keep it local. I mean, what do you need to do to attend to what the Lord has given you today? My ministry or my mission or my job or my family, without being caught in how I might solve the American crisis today. And that was helpful. Without obviously ignoring our responsibility to the greater good, the common good, the good of our country. But being attentive to what I need to do today. Otherwise, I'm lost. And just having this spirit, the spirit that Jesus had when he prays to his Father, your will be done, your kingdom come, that as unsettled as it is, as dark as it seems, and of course, there are people who live in such dark circumstances and whose life's challenges are much greater than mine. The spirit of just letting God be God, knowing that God is God. That the coming of the kingdom is inevitable. It will come. It will come. Not because of anything we do, but because of God's power and life. So that's all I can do today. And so what the prayer I would offer for our reflection and just wrapping up is the Serenity Prayer, which again is very familiar to many of us. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace. Taking as he did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will. That I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. The serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. God bless you. Maybe you have a